get your biceps in there.
Yeah.
Your strong arms. Listen to Ryan putting up with me being scatterbrained all the time. ADHD pills won't help with that.
I did just get some new athletic wear.
Oh? I mean, have you been keeping up with working out?
Yeah, well, I don't have any. I've never had I actually, because I just did some summer cleaning and I found a bucket load of athletic wear right after I just bought some, so that's nice.
Have you actually never run in something like Under Armour or anything?
I have, but not since high school.
So you do know how it's like fucking air conditioning.
Yes, yeah. Because I used to play old soccer back in the day.
Soccer? You mean American football?
Nope.
This is a sports podcast, everybody. Welcome into the Dungeon Ball. I'm gonna ride off the high of making that joke.
Okay.
Like all day.
What do you play in the dungeon?
What I play in Dungeon Ball? Okay, well, there's some stuff that I really enjoy.
Have you heard of Blood Bowl?
No.
It's a Warhammer fantasy.
I was about to say,
they play football, but it's like orcs and things, and it's like pretty intense.
Like Griffball, but in Halo. That was so fucking good at that shit in 3. But no, for me, I don't play sports. I do things I enjoy, though. And this is super off topic, but the Monster Hunter Rise DLC, Sunbreak, came out. And even the and I'm saying this in the nicest way, but the older generation elitists, I know that word usually has a negative connotation, but those games are inarguably good. More obtuse, but that's why you all like it. So this game has a lot of quality of life improvements, the most. And for Insectclave, you can just purely live the aerial fantasy. That's
the dream.
The Dragoon, this is the best depiction of what being a Dragoon in an what is the term? Non-turn-based game, I suppose.
Yeah.
Instead of the attack that in the air when you jump and then you attack and do the helicopter, it's just a dive directly forward that you can hold. Okay, so we're gonna get my fingers here. You hold right trigger, X to go up in the air. And then you keep holding right trigger and left trigger to be able to aim.
Okay.
So you need to, in order to attack, hit circle. But hey, you're holding on to trigger, and you need to press the face button. So you're doing claw like fucking crazy. And it looks ridiculous, but you just dive and then bounce. And
this was added in the DLC. This is not
every weapon got a shitload of new moves.
That's
a
shitload. Have they done that before?
It's
the World DLC.
They've added. There's a couple of moves added in World. Though the dive was, and there's a few things that they've done previously, but this is the biggest rehashing of a lot of abilities that have been present in older generations. And my point is still oncoming. But with that, you used to have to sit on the ground, shoot a bug, get extracts, and then go and do your shit. But being on the ground was the most important thing. This time, that move that changes the helicopter now hits less, which means it uses less sharpness. Your bow, so you fucking sharpness. And when you grab a white or orange extract instead of the red, none of you understand what this is, but the Insectclave does buffs with that. It grabs them when you hit the monster, when you dive. So you don't ever have to get on the ground and enter that awkward, boring state.
You just be up in the air all the time?
Not the whole time. You do have to land occasionally, but it does enough damage. But my 4 favorite things, I think there's 3, but there might be 4. Polearms. Okay. Insectclave is a polearm.
Yeah.
Summoning. The bug, right?
Sure, that counts.
Warlock stuff. The weapon is from an ancient civilization.
Okay.
And they're like weird, freaky technology. And the bug, in a sense, kind of like is your patron because you can't do anything without it. It gives you your powers.
You could say it's a familiar though.
It's like a familiar summoning. It's a similar stuff, similar vibe. What the 4? Oh, aerial things. If there's
aerial things.
And not just flying like planes. If you've played Earth Defense Force with all the bugs and shit.
EDF.
Their EDF is so good.
Hard.
I don't remember what they're called, but the one that floats around. I love having the access to the Z axis. But you know what else I love?
What else do you love?
Radiant Citadel is pretty good.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today. He's Ryan.
Yeah, he's Braxton.
Dungeon Crawl. Hello. Ball.
Dungeon Crawl. So this Radiant Citadel is not out.
Mm-mm.
I had to do some checking because I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was supposed to be up and out. I did. I went to go.
It was.
I checked my old notes from the D&D Direct, and they originally announced that it was coming out in June 21st.
So we're like 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, definitely past that. But now it has been delayed until, of course, I decided to close the page that I brought up. But it's been delayed until, drumroll please, everybody. Here you go. To July 19th. July.
We got
19th.
there eventually, friends.
Yeah, well, because I opened D&D Beyond, it took me to the chapter that I have, but not the full pre-order.
Yeah.
So July 19th. If you're unaware of what the Radiant Citadel is, it is an anthology of 13 standalone adventures for players levels 1 through 14.
You know what I'm going to say right off the bat?
Yeah.
I like this in general because of what he mentioned. It functions as a place in between, a place your players may not go through every adventure, but might use in between their adventures in your campaign. And if they use this to allow themselves to put, hey, if you're looking for a good way to transition into this, the Radiant Citadel is a good way to pivot in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess
that's my one worry.
Those of you that don't know what we're talking about, this Radiant Citadel chapter was released 2 weeks ago for free on D&D Beyond.
You can no longer get it.
Yeah, it was open only for a week, and apparently Braxton can't even access it anymore.
I had access to it, but I can no longer.
Damn, I still have pure access to it, so that's great. But it will be fully released obviously soon, so it's not a big deal. So we're just gonna be giving you a little preview. So if you didn't open it or you missed out, then here's your little preview on what's to come. So this is the first chapter just covering the Radiant Citadel, the Citadel itself, which if you are a D&D aficionado, you could say this is like the Yawning Portal. This is the...
What is that? What is that
Portal.
in?
You know the...
I've heard of it, I just don't know.
There's another anthology book called Tales from the Yawning Portal, and it's a famous tavern that exists that kind of acts as like a way station in between areas, and people tell stories there. You can like go from point A to point B, like kind of teleport out there and stuff. Similar to this, where it's a hub station for a lot of different things. Obviously, this is much bigger. It's a full like city place.
And other cities.
Well, the Yawning Portal is much smaller. But I imagine this will be similar, where it's kind of like a Yawning Portal 2, where there's a bunch of adventures in here, and this is your place to kind of pseudo connect them.
It's interesting. This is in the similar vein to the library one.
Candlekeep.
Candlekeep. It functions.
It's like that style.
Yes. So I hope the logistics and organization or project management with the freelancers was more pleasant for them on this side.
Yeah, I'm curious how much of the Citadel actually plays a role, because Candlekeep played a big role. Most of the things took place, at least around there, started within the university, and then you would spread out. While here, I'm hoping that there's not much. I mean, not that I don't like it, but I just want the adventures. You know, I want to be able to drag and drop these adventures anywhere into my world.
Well, it does seem like that. They directly address it in a section, even within the first chapter. So I am inclined to think that is the case.
Yes. But then begs the question, why have this chapter in the first place? Because there's a lot of thought into this chapter. There's a lot of stuff going on. If it's not a big role, then why is it here? And if it is a big role, I feel like it should be bigger. I don't know.
Really?
We don't know what the next chapter. Maybe chapter 2 is expanding on the cultures in here.
Oh, I'm certain that it's going to. I think this is literally just you've zoomed out as much as possible.
Well, my other concern is if then chapter 2, let's say for example, chapter 2 is expanding on the cultures. That means the adventure is probably pretty short. If they got this, then chapter 2 is just about the Radiant Citadel. Then they got 14 adventures coming up next?
Yeah.
13 adventures coming up next. I mean, that's got to be pretty small.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to be massive, but my biggest point of focus when it does come out is going to be that issue with Candlekeep. With my insight on recruitment in general, not recruitment at WotC because of the experience I had. So I'll give that disclaimer because I did indeed interview with them. So I want to say that this is not going against anything
directly talking about them. Yeah,
this is just from my experience as a recruiter in general. So recruiting for talent can be super stressful. There is no way to guarantee you're going to meet a deadline on finding somebody.
Right. I mean, like I said, it was delayed. So it probably wasn't delayed for that reason, but it was at least delayed.
Yeah, I think it was like paper and books. And they had the issues with the previous releases having some physical defects.
Multiverse, yeah.
So that's definitely a worry here. And this is their first foray into a lot of content that showcases diversity.
Yes.
So it's a very important release
for
to them.
sure.
And it's really interesting. I think there is no way to remove politics from media or books or
Especially
anything.
Diversity kind of media.
Yes.
That's kind of the whole point is to, talk about these topics.
And it is interesting to state that this is not a nation in a land. It's an evolving, accepting place.
Many cultures, many nations in one space.
It's almost to the point of being a utopia.
Yes, it's an interesting word. I was going to say that too, because there was a little pushback. Some people were
I browsed Reddit a bit. People were like, there's no issue here. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, people are a little annoyed from what I saw that the first like diversity place had a bunch of different cultures coming together. And everybody's happy. Everything's peachy keen. Some people were saying that it seemed like a parody of like diversity. All these people were coming together and everyone's just happy. Because I mean, that's unfortunately not the world we live in, but I mean, this is also not the world we live in. It's, a different place. But I think the importance of this is that they're giving us the options, because they definitely, there's a few areas throughout this chapter they say, you can easily see as a DM say, okay, if I push on this one thing, the dominoes will start falling. If this one area encroaches a little bit farther, okay, people are going to start freaking out. And then that's when things could start falling apart.
And the interesting thing about the first chapter too is you could technically run this with your own brain. You just 100%. Fill everything out on your own. So that's really interesting to release this. But I felt a weird sense of, it did feel a little forced, but that could just be because I'm not used to it. And I wholeheartedly agree that a depiction of anything in media can and should happen within the right spaces. Like, it is not wrong to have a city with no conflict. There is the argument that no conflict is not interesting, but lack of war, harm, and that sort of storytelling, that's not the only way to introduce conflict.
Well, I guess you could say it's kind of like that for multiple reasons, but like the cultures that came here are usually escaping from other places, and they're coming from war and strife. So they're coming here, and the guys that are here are not the ones that are starting the war and strife. So obviously there's still probably going to be some conflict, but everyone here is under the same trauma.
Like, we're fucking tired of this shit.
Let's not do this anymore. Reminds me a lot of like kind of like the idealism that Star Trek has, where everybody, all the races agree on like some certain guidelines and stuff. And then obviously your species, I guess I should say. And then obviously things start falling apart and things happen. And I could see like this is the perfect starting point. And then, like I said, the DM can just push on a few dominoes and then they start falling.
Like always, there's always an option for the DM to push dominoes or put dominoes up themselves. But I think that was the biggest takeaway when reading this, is how different it is in presentation. Again, it's the first chapter, so there's no way to really tell per se, but I enjoyed reading it. Yeah. I didn't dislike it. I felt interested. It's that high-ish fantasy sort of stuff that piques my interest. So if you're the same, you'll definitely like that. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy, there's a bit of like importance on crystals and gems, which can be fun. True. Even just the sight of the Radiant Citadel, there's like a massive spike of a gem that pierces straight through it.
Yeah, it's a cool map.
And there is a bit of tension. Like, there is a threat that orbits around the diamond itself.
What's it called?
I can't remember.
Encroaching
something. You're correct on there. Look, it's the first chapter. We don't have to be
the keening gloom.
The keening gloom. So there is an overlooming presence, glooming presence around. So there's no issues.
Kind of reminds me of you Marvel fans out there. Reminds me of the planet area called Nowhere, where it's a bunch of like people all together, and then right next to it is like the end of the universe is like right next to this area.
That's so cool.
It's kind of like this.
Or if you play Destiny 2, kind of like the something shore. No, you know what I'm talking about. If you play Destiny 2. I should know too, but it's interesting. It's very.
I do want to point out, interesting. I don't know if do you know what sigil is? If I were to say, let's go to sigil in D&D terms.
To sigil? No.
So sigil is, I don't think it's been touched on much in D&D. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's another plane. And it's called like, I have it here. I wrote it down somewhere. It's also known as like the plane of the city of doors. The city of secrets, some say as well. And it's similar-ish to this, where it's like fast travel between planes. You can just get from all sorts of, and the city itself is like lots of tumultuous, crazy stuff going on there. But there are doors that take you to different areas, different planes, outer planes, everything like that. And it's interesting. I think when this was coming out, a lot of people were thinking this might be like a rehash of that, or like a reskin of sigil.
Yeah.
But they actually point out, they talk about sigil in here. They say Noteworthy examples include the Harpers, yada yada, sigils, fraternity of order. So they are basically saying that sigil still exists in this world. This is just another area, and this doesn't touch outer planes. This is just material planes.
Yeah, this is going to be what I hope my review is. Buy this if you want a set of adventures for one shots in between sessions. You need a break from writing. I want the purpose of this to be a DM's back pocket content, to be able to continue doing D&D when they don't want to write their own or crack open a massive
That's the best thing about anthology stuff. So I say, if you don't like
anthology,
this Radiant Citadel section, don't worry about it. Because you can easily, I would assume, easily pick up one of these adventures and run it on your own terms.
Yeah, it might be a bit of a tough review if we go through this much, but if that does seem to be the purpose, we could take the angle of, out of all the adventures, blank out of blank. How many are there?
A lot.
Okay, well, if it's like 4,
in this one?
Yeah.
13.
So out of 13 adventures, I liked like 9 of them. If it were me, I'd definitely recommend getting it. That's 9 adventures from these levels that are great. If more of them tend to be the higher level, and I assume this probably only goes to like 13, if we know.
That goes to 14.
14. That's a pretty standard level we're at right now, and starting to get really power creepy and hard to balance. And there could be a good perspective on that, like where's the breaking point in high level in D&D.
Yes.
But going into the actual content, I think that's a good point to transition towards it. It's written well and organized pretty okay. It does feel just like a big dump, but that's often what first chapters are. And there isn't a lack of mechanics either, but the one that sticks out the most to me was the House of Coalescence.
Yes.
Interesting.
I have that here too. Yeah.
It's the one with healing and whatnot. So any spell that requires diamonds as components, like revives and shit, raise dead, resurrection, revivify, true resurrection, while cast in the House of Coalescence, do not consume that diamond. You do need it. Oh, never required? Okay, so never mind. You don't need it at all.
So it's free revives. And
all of your healing does its max possible roll.
Yeah.
So if you do 2d6 HP to a creature to heal, they get 12.
Obviously, you have to be at a level where you have these. I mean, so you can't come here right after. Let's say you're in one of the adventures and your friend dies. If you don't have some of the higher level revives, it won't matter because it's like Revivify. You have to be there within a minute or something.
Yeah. Well, this is in the material plane, yeah?
Technically speaking, it's in the ethereal plane, yeah?
Oh, it's in the ethereal.
Yes, yeah, it's in the ethereal.
Okay, then that fixes my issue. If it was in the material plane, what's stopping your players from putting a teleportation circle here or something and then just bopping over whenever they want?
So that's where the travel system of the crystals comes in. So that's how you get back and forth.
Yeah. I just thought it was super interesting that something like that exists. Like, that's powerful as shit.
Yeah, I find to imagine why this is here. It's so you could, at higher levels, if you're playing through, the way Candlekeep was set up, you could, in theory, play through each adventure starting at the beginning and slowly work through the end. I imagine you do that with the house, or not with these as well. So at higher levels, you could continue playing with your friend. You can make it through the entire anthology with the same characters. If you don't have any diamonds, you just take your buddy over there and use resurrection on him. Boom. Move on.
And where this is on the main island, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not one of the ones that you can drive around. Yes, you can drive an island, which is pretty cool. There are smaller islands and smaller crystals that fragment off. I believe. Am I correct in that? I know that
so.
Something of that sort. There's civilizations and the Concord jewels, as they are known.
Yes.
Some examples would be Akarin Sangar for turquoise. Or all the way at the bottom, best height is Zinda. So I'm assuming these are going to be where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
There's
11,
15
12,
places.
13, 14, 15 places.
Which is, I had the exact same thought. I assumed each civilization, each jewel is going to be connected to a different adventure. But there's 13 stories
Might
and
go to
15
a couple
places. Maybe some will weave through a couple areas.
So I'm interested to see. I assume there was a main writer for the setting, mayhaps. But it's a little confusing because the civilizations, I assume, would highlight the diversity of each of these areas.
Think so,
and would be tied to what that specific D&D writer or content creator
100%
wanted to do.
That's my understanding, yeah.
It's interesting to think about how they organized it. Was definitely a lot to put on, and I wonder if anybody collaborated and connected stuff.
I mean, I don't know all of these, but you can read a couple of them and kind of see where they're inspired from.
Yeah. it's super interesting how this is going to function as like a back pocket thing for DMs with the Concord jewels, because they are able to teleport and perfectly land above 600 feet above where they can park down and land, essentially. So if you want to be fancy, after they've done some of their shit here, this can turn into their vehicle.
This is a fast travel dream.
You could make this into like an Adventure Zone-esque balance arc hub, like, you know, something flying in the sky that your friends can return to.
Yep,
something
you can have your own crystals to the places that you want the party to go to.
Yeah, it's super cool. I like, as a DM, I would love running in an idea like that. Obviously, it's not what it is. We don't know quite at the moment.
If we just had this one adventure, or this one chapter, you could easily run stuff here without anything else.
And there is governance and politics. There's a section here that explains it. And when you hear politics, it doesn't exactly make you think of conflict free.
Right.
In order to maintain peace, there needs to be some sort of organization. So each of the, what are they called? The Citadel itself and Concord jewels all have people that govern over that specific jewel. And there are these beasts or spirits, the incarnates that are super cool. They're an animal or creature that has the inhabitants of a bunch of spirits within it, and you can go talk to it and whatnot. But they're not these massively omniscient creatures. There's a section where it talks of maybe one of them is a frog and it's living in a pond and it knows well the fisher that comes there, but not of where he lives or where he goes. So they're not going to be these all-knowing creatures. And they have a mix of personalities because there's a bunch of spirits in it, but there's a primary one. It's really fun. Like, I enjoy those moments in D&D where we meet out of this world
something that you can only experience through this medium. But
they don't feel out of reach even at a lower level. It's super cool. It's like running across something in a Rockstar game or a Bethesda game, which is like a little piece of candy.
This is where the first, or one of the dominoes that I see, where it has the Sapphire Wyvern, that the dead dawn incarnate knows the Sapphire Wyvern disturbs the tranquility of the preserve of the ancestors. So you could push this as in maybe it's coming back or something, or the people that destroyed it are still around.
Yeah. And there was another character, Sholeh, who's an ancient brass dragon, and they give flaws for a lot of these leaders. I think they mainly give one example. There's shield bearers.
Do I exist only because others need me?
And if you want to exploit that, because a brass dragon gets insecure and is worried that they don't need them anymore because they're getting so self-efficient. I hate this example, but if you play Genshin Impact, Ganyu, who's been with humanity for ages and ages, and they've loved her and had her help with them with boring things like taxes and whatnot. And she's like, do they actually need me? And I'm like, you've been here for how many years? And now you're thinking that? But it's similar. And it can be a fun thing to topple over for dominance. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely a lot of things for you to play with. It's going to be a versatile piece of putty in your toolbox, I hope. I won't say it will.
And even if you don't know what to do, there's a whole section on how to use the Citadel at the end, which I always appreciate when they give you some, like, hey, you don't know what to do here? Here's what you can do here. Now, my only thing that I could see, and I have one of my players sitting in front of me here, so maybe he can tell me, whenever, let's say you were to get to a place and you see, and you understand that each jewel can take you to a different location, by Jove, you're going to want to get on every jewel and see every location at some point, right?
It depends. Let me throw this back at you. Do I want to open every door in a dungeon?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, some do. Some players do, for sure.
Not all the time. I have the desire to explore every room, but I don't want to open every door.
Let's say the doors are open.
That's harder. That's
you
definitely
walk
harder.
by, see an open door.
I think it depends on how long each of the adventures are, you know? And I think...
Well, not even adventures. Just say you get to a place and you see a gem. And you as a player, you get here on a gem, and then you get explained to you, okay, so each of these gems, you see a turquoise, you see a sapphire one. These are complete to a different plane of existence in the material world. I mean, I know I'd be very curious. Like, I could easily see players want to explore all the different jewels, and so that's my only concern. That's with everything that you introduce parties to.
Well, the thing, I'm certain that any numbnuts can't just walk up, poke it, and teleport.
There are people that are protecting them and stuff.
So there you go. Fuck off, little adventurers. We're not going there yet. We'll be there in another 5 weeks, okay? And then you can go.
But I do like the idea of, they even give the option here, is rather than spending time determining how characters get between remote locales, create links between them via the Radiant Citadel. So that's why you eventually could turn this into a fast travel location where they want to go travel to the continent across the world. Okay, well, we actually got a spot right here. Just hop on board.
And I mean, it could be fun to add in, if they haven't already. It is peaceful, but we don't want to allow anybody to travel, and we don't do it from this gem to this one because there's this tension from those lands right now. They're currently at war.
Like they turn them off.
So we have a peace pact to not allow these to travel between each other. And of course, like, how do you govern that sort of stuff? But that's a really good point, and I didn't think about that. But as the DM, it is your world, and yes, your goal is to make it as fun as possible for your players. So do let them have their fun.
Well, that's why I said I guess my worry is that this book definitely won't cover these. They'll cover maybe the cultures a bit, but they won't go into detail on like what Zinda is like. And so if my players travel there and start going way off, they hop on the Bastite Jewel and then they just decide, I'm going to fuck off to the west. And I guess, again, that's the fear with every adventure you run, is that the players are like, you know what, that's really cool, but I want to see what's way over here. And then, that's obviously maybe the party you're playing with is not the nicest group of people, and they know that the DM's trying to say, hey, how about you go to the big citadel over here? And they hop on a different thing.
Yeah, I think the DMs want to keep the curtain down as much as possible and not stop things, but I've had, and this one's less focused on RP, but I've been playing a bit of Pathfinder with a good friend of mine in the VTubing community on Twitch. And there are times when we go to a section in the Book of the Dead adventure path. I think we're in the second one right now. Or not the Book of the Dead, whatever the fuck it is. Abomination Vaults. Thank you. Book of the Dead is a source material, which is really nice.
Great.
It's very, very good. We did a review on it, actually. There's an episode for that. Go check it out. He will flat out say, there's an invisible wall there, and I have not prepared that, so we'll just blah, blah. So you can be comfortable to say that, or if you're like Ryan and you want to try to make an episode in the adventure of these guys, you don't want to stop the audience and say, sorry guys, let the writers finish this up, and then we'll get back to it. You can try to push for a bit, maybe improv as much as you can.
Yeah.
Or session 0, hey guys, this is what's going on.
Just let you know.
They can go to these places, and I don't want to stop you, but it will affect the quality of the game when you go to a place that is way outside of the scope that I'm setting in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like no spoilers for Rime of the Frostmaiden, but there's an area at the end that could literally, the campaign ends right there, and a whole new campaign can begin. So, and I could easily see players just, getting into that for funsies. So that's my only concern. But that's with any adventure. Obviously, Strahd fixes that by saying you literally cannot leave. So
sorry, bub.
I don't know if that's the solution, but
it's strange because the whole thing about this is freedom and being able to go and do whatever. Yes. It's gonna be a fine balance. But I think the couple of suggestions we gave, just being honest, setting expectations, or just being like, hey guys, not ready, want you to have fun, so we're going to stop there today, let's go get dinner or something.
Yeah, I think that's always or even let's say it's pretty early on in your session, you're like, hey guys, let's take a break, I'm going to go to the bathroom real fast, and while you're in the bathroom you start freaking out. It's okay to take breaks.
Yeah. Is there anything saying that you couldn't change to where they go? No, maybe you have a bunch of locations and they don't go anywhere that is outside of your comfort zone. A little strange that there's like 5 teleporters that go back to the main city that you just made last week.
I mean, hell yeah, you could even have like all the jewels are off or they're gone right now, except for the one where this adventure is taking you to.
Down for maintenance, the vending machine, the soft serve machine's down for cleaning. I mean, it could be like that. Maybe it's just there's an eclipse going on. Or something, and the power of them is down. Everything's fine. The crystal's not losing its power, but this is a regular occurrence. It's okay. Is it going to feel railroady? Yeah, but that's what you're trying to do.
That's what a lot of D&D adventures, at least by like official material, it's kind of the whole point of playing the adventure. It's pretty railroady.
Yeah, or maybe that specific jewel traveled off a little too far, and it's a little too tough to get to it at the moment. There's plenty of stuff you can do. So that's the biggest worry. I'm excited for what it's going to be.
I'm very excited.
I hear the gripes about, and I hate saying this, but it is definitely like people on Reddit saying this feels a little too hopeful or like silly. A lot of people find the war and constant strife and dark backstories to be silly. So let these people have their time in the limelight and enjoy a different sort of adventure and maybe let it become more of a standard because it's okay.
I think a lot of people were expecting a Sigil-like place, and Sigil's not a utopia. So I think they were hoping like to get some nitty gritty bastards, but then instead they got happy-go-lucky people.
What I'll say is there's the writing standard that no conflict does not make for an interesting story, but it's only because it's been a standard and I don't think anybody's tried hard enough.
Yeah, but I mean, the conflict's there. You just got to apply a little bit of pressure.
So I think it can happen for sure. I don't know how long this episode was. It is definitely something shorter than we knew that would happen.
That's the plan.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited. It comes out, drum roll please, in 2 weeks. Everybody, 2 weeks.
That's not too bad.
Of course, it comes out on the day we release episodes. So obviously we'll review it the following week, but...
That is true. We'll see what we can do. It's not going to be an adjustment for you guys. We're putting a little bit more structure because I've finally started to find more effort in my brain to organize my life while on ADHD pills. So hopefully I'll bring a bit more to the game and we won't push episodes as much because we started treating it not like a business, but just more like a project to function on. Because again, like we said way in the beginning, and if you've been with us since then, we did this literally just to keep in contact.
Time flies, man.
I was literally sitting on my bed. I was like, hey, you want to do a podcast?
And I was like,
let's do it by this date.
Sure.
Here we go. That's why we don't delete texts, because you can keep things like that. I have 10 gigabytes on my phone of text messages.
Whoa.
I know, it's fancy. But what else I have are a couple of things socially that I could tell you about, like our Instagram and our Twitter. That's at Dungeon Crawl Pod if you feel like interacting with us on the timeline. Or what is the dashboard? The dash.
Dashboard,
Let's go to Tumblr. A good time. If you want to join in for Discord conversation and whatnot, playing some games, I've got some ideas about things we may start offering in the future. A cool little idea. If anybody would be interested in like either the Patreon getting buffed out with this or other services of tiers. If Ryan and I start getting a lot of effort or time in being able to consistently do like a one shot or an adventure for people in the Discord that are well known and friends of ours, or people that are our supporters and have been for a certain amount of time, saying like every other month or every however fucking often we can create content, you can have a seat on that and enjoy it. And obviously, we would have to have a limit.
Sure.
Because we can't DM for 20 people. Assuming 20 of you would be interested in. But that's the Discord and things that we're thinking about. There's a ton of stuff to talk. It's not exclusive to D&D, but that is the main purpose of it. We do have an email as well, thedungeoncrawlpod@gmail.com. In addition, going back to the Discord, that is housed in a link tree that is in the description as well. And our Patreon, if you ever feel like donating some money for us. Keep an eye out for if we ever do add something like what I was just talking about to our Patreon.
Yeah, we had some Patreon ideas. Yeah. We have mentioned a few times, but if you're on YouTube, you would notice it's not up yet. But our session 0.5 of our live play, which is coming soon, promise, is on our Patreon, free to watch. It will be on YouTube soon, but it's currently still on Patreon if you want to watch it. So I kind of get some ideas on what's coming. It was a lot of fun. But I do have a question for you, Braxton.
Yes.
Does it ever make you a little uncomfortable that 772 people have listened to Do We Need Pants, our very first episode?
That is one of the memories I have that I can replay instantly in my mind.
Crazy to think about.
The coming up with that name. Actually, you know what?
Do we need pants?
Let me go into our DMs and type in pants. Let me type in pants. I don't see.
So there might be other stuff that comes up.
If it's still there, I don't remember what we talked about. Let me look at the title. You want to keep the title as is, or do the old Do We Need Pants episode 1? November 12th, 2020.
Wow.
Do We Need Pants? 200 listens. Oh, wait, no, that was way back. Wait, Do We Need Pants?
There you go.
8/3/2019. That was the first time you gave me the link for Apple Podcasts.
Wow.
Do We Need Pants, huh? Damn, it's been a bit. Wait, our anniversary is wait, did we miss it? It's today.
No, is it?
It might be like today. Hold on.
The first one was July 30th.
The first episode was July 30th?
Okay, so we got the rest of this month.
Hey, it's the month of the Dungeon.
Wow.
Dungeon.
That's our fourth anniversary?
2019?
2019.
To 2020, 2021, 2022. Wait, what? Did we start in 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
Okay, so this will be our 3rd year.
3rd year. Wow, that's crazy.
It feels like we're on our 4th. I know that our campaign that we've been running is probably coming close on its 7th year.
Yeah.
Or that world and story.
That world, yeah.
Man.
And it's going to keep going because it's the same world for the live play. How exciting.
It's his magnum opus.
How exciting.
His biggest project. It's been a blast. I wish you guys could have been there from the beginning. It's fun. We also, if you guys need any advice regarding talking to players and setting expectations, if something goes wrong, we recently went through an experience with that as well. And I think it went okay. And
all things considered, yeah.
The main hope is to just make sure everybody is fine and can grow.
Yeah.
And I think we managed to do that.
We love everybody involved, but sometimes it's, I don't know.
So shoot us an email or tweet or Discord message. I don't know. That's all I got.
And rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review and just say, hey, love you.
Oh, we also probably just hit, I think, a good big old number in terms of all of our listens. This is the last thing before I will sign off for you guys. Also, thanks for hanging around with the ads.
Yeah.
That have happened. We have not made no money. We're about to hit 30,000 downloads since we've made
30,000 in total. That's wild.
Yes. And we've been constantly growing a bit.
Every month we get a little over 1,500 pretty much.
And then in the last 7, this is the largest number I've actually seen. 541 downloads the last 7 days.
Whoa.
So don't know where you guys are coming from, but
no idea, but we appreciate it.
What were y'all watching on this day? 24 people watched the most versatile class in D&D. Damn. And then somebody was going through from the beginning. One of you went through the whole fucking thing.
Probably just left it on. They fell asleep.
Maybe. But thank you guys so much. It's been a blast. And we'll see y'all for the next episode.
Which is going to be great.
Yes, because we're going to pick it like now. Get out of here.